All right, we'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast. You know, hopefully you've gone through part one and part two. I think it's probably important that you go ahead and have context. And so often we judge people because we don't have context. So like we wonder, why do people go ahead and act this way? Like, why do they act this way? And we don't know their childhood. We don't know their backstory. Shoot, they don't even consciously know their backstory either. Often, you know, and so, um, I didn't really want to do this series. You know, I was really hoping to get out of it. I thought, why? Like, why does it mean that you're you're not healed? Maybe, I can go with that. Um, Does it mean that you've tried and worked so hard for so long that you've given up hope? Like it's not going to make a difference. Like I think of the emotional like trauma, I think of trauma like a physical wound. Like in the mental world, I look at the physical world because I think the physical world it's a lot easier to see. Like you have a you have a sliver, in your you have a sliver in your foot and that hurts, it's a sliver. But when you get hurt, and so this is bringing up a whole bunch of stuff with my wife and I. It's all crazy, it's all wonky, it's like really, and it's like I don't know how to process everything, and that's pretty important for me for whatever reason. And like the first time in 61 years this thought came across my mind. Like I've thought a lot about pain, emotional hurt and pain. Not really. Well, I guess it started, I could think of like when I was 16 and I broke up with my first really serious girlfriend. I can think of that and whoa, that hurt. That was painful. That hurt a lot. Like a lot. And I think where I look back and like nobody said anything, nobody did anything. Like my mom didn't check on me and say, "Hey, are you okay?" and give me a hug and say, "I'm really concerned." I didn't find out until I was 50. Like my mom was, my mom was, and I were talking. All of a sudden, she's like, "Yeah, I was thinking about Sandy Lawrence." I'm like, "What?" like, like my mom remembered her name, and she's like, "Yeah, I was so concerned about you when that happened." And I'm like, "Really? Like you didn't say anything?" Like what? It was after my dad had died, actually, that she brought it up. And she says, "Yeah, I said to dad, I said to dad, I'm so concerned about Mark." And my dad says, "Oh, don't worry. It's fine. It's no big deal."
That's the man response to it, right? Sort of
What's that?
that's sort of the default man response to it.
I
He'll be
guess,
fine.
I guess. But my mom ruined me when I was 9 years old. And she said, "You're going to make some woman the most amazing husband on the planet because you're so sensitive." So she trained me to be sensitive. It's like, you know, okay, all I did was give her some sour cream and onion potato chips. It's not that big of a deal. And she started crying. She was so moved by it. I'm like, that's kind of weird. So she trains me to be sensitive, but I guess that's sensitive to women, but not the reverse. Like I'm thinking, Mom, you don't have to ask your husband for permission to give your son a hug. Like, give him a hug and say, are you okay? Because I feel that really hurt. No kidding, Mom. Holy cow. I didn't know how to process it.
You know?
And so That's another podcast. That's not included in this one. So I think subconsciously I'm trying to stay away from this. And it's weird. It's like, why? Like, why? So, anyways, here's something interesting. Like, the man may get hurt more than the girl does.
Yeah, I read this opening paragraph. I've been waiting on
Like, like,
the context to this.
how does that work? So, I thought when Roseanne, like, I dated a couple girls, but nothing real serious. Um, I mean, except Sandy, it was serious emotionally. Physically, it wasn't. It was, I mean, um, but emotionally, it was really serious, like really connected in with her. And and so didn't have, much, emotional experience going in or physical experience going in. And so when we started dating and we started kissing, holy cow, I'd never experienced that. Was crazy. I'm like, I'm like, I'd never experienced anything like it. I could see what my mom said. She said when we, before I went away to college, she says, Mark, um, physical intimacy with like a girl, you're going to brush up against her arm and everything is going to go crazy. I'd experienced that. I'm like, whoa, that's true. And then she said, then she said, and then you're going to hold hands and then you're going to kiss. And then, everything's progression all leads to sex. Like it's all, and it's like, it can be like a freight train out of control. So you need to learn how to discipline yourself and make sure you don't get into a situation. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so, so then I went ahead and so we started, I'm like, okay, we can only kiss on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I kept putting rules in place and I kept like, did I really say that? What does that mean? Like, what, you know, like when the Bible says the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, who can know it? Like, I've experienced that with my own heart,
Same here.
you
So
know? And so then, being a good Baptist pastor's son, then we got engaged and papers. Like, I thought dating was hard, engagement, everything. Like the wheels came off. It's like, in my devious little mind, like we get engaged. I believe in, short engagements, shorter better. Just like, wow. Like,
you
like,
hearing this, Marissa?
like that's, I'm just saying for me, just short engagements, like boom. My devious mind, being a good Baptist kid, I'm like, I wonder what the Bible says about premarital sex. And I find out that it's okay. Like, I'm like, I'm like, whoa, it's okay. I mean, if you get married, if you don't get married, is wrong. But if you get married, I mean, that's kind of the consummate. They didn't have all this other stuff. So I'm thinking, hey, like, I'm good. We're going to get married. It'll be fine. And then there was some voice inside my head said, Mark, you've waited this long. You probably ought to wait until you get married. And then I'm like,
Yep.
don't be stupid. Just wait another, I think it was 6 months. We were engaged for 9 months. It took me 3 months to figure out how to game the system. and then I'm like, and she was so much in love with me. Holy cow. She would have just given, like, I knew that. I just knew she's not going to be able to say no. I have captured her heart just totally. And but I said, no, we're not going to do it. So continue to put rules in and try to have like a whole bunch of stuff. And we made it. We made it until our wedding night, which was really cool. And that's another podcast. Like, man, I'm just telling you, you wait and you'll never be sorry. I mean, 40 years of marriage and I've never been sorry. Not once. I mean, and the joy and intimacy, I don't know. How do you measure that? Like I had thought about doing studies on men who waited and men who didn't. I'm guessing the men who waited, they might have, infinitely more pleasure and enjoyment and fulfillment and everything. Anyways, going back to men may get hurt more than a girl. So I thought when I was dating and I'm having all of these things, and then we have this stuff with her dad, which really messed up everything. And he said it was weird, like the goofball, like such an idiot. So, warning again, this can go like when we were in Florida on vacation, all of a sudden it'd be pouring rain, and then it'd be sunshine. It was the weirdest thing. It's like it's just downpour, and then all of a sudden it stops. That's how I am emotionally. Women will appreciate this. They'll say, yeah, I know. I went through puberty. That's how I was in puberty. Men won't. They just learn to shut it off. Just shut it off. Don't feel anything. Just shut it off and don't do anything. So, Marissa, good to have you. I'm a little concerned because you're driving. So I'm like, is it safe? She's driving. I don't want her to, I don't know. Because this, who knows what kind. So this stuff gets, it can go from that really fast. Like it can go, like when my 6 granddaughters, when I remember specifically when they were 3 years old, they were like that. Mark, get back to just finish it. Just rip the Band-Aid off. So I realized, I'm like, if God goes ahead, because they talk about the girl being hurt. And again, listen to me and listen to my heart. Because the amount of damage that my father-in-law did to my wife and our children and our marriage is, you can't, like, only God knows. Like, only God knows. Anyways, so I thought, like, if I have responsibility as a man to have leadership in the relationship, then it only makes sense that if I go ahead and violate that, if I violate that, then I'm going to be the one that gets hurt more than she will.
A lot of that burden rests on your shoulders in a way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's both. Like when she had those hot pink shorts on, we were in college and over at my brother's apartment, had the apartment to ourselves, and she's out sunbathing with the hot pink shorts. And I'm like, honey, you can't wear those. You just can't. Like, you just can't. There's just no way. So she was respectful and she tried to go ahead and not look so sexy, but man, it was hard for her it was crazy. So I thought, Mark, you're going to destroy yourself. If you don't, you're going to emasculate yourself. It actually hurts you more than it does her. And I told her this. I said, this is my theory. So we're 18, 19 years old and traveling through this journey. I mean, nobody held us accountable. Nobody checked on us and said, hey, do you guys have rules? Are you following the rules? Nobody helped us. Like, nobody. You know why? Probably because nobody helped them. Probably because they might have failed in that area and they don't even know the damage. Like, you don't even know the damage. I'm 61 years old and I'm telling you, it's insane to me. I'm like, this is a marvel from God. I mean, this is absolutely a marvel from God. Physical intimacy between a husband and a wife it's just insane. After 40 years of marriage, I'm like still in awe and wonderment. And so it does something. So I remember when I got out of college, I had 6 job offers, took the one that was the most risky, 100% straight commission position. And I remember wanting to quit. And I said, Mark, you made it through the engagement period sexually. You made it through that. You can make it through anything. Seriously. Like normally smiling. It's true. And then I remember starting my own company and just saying, I can't handle this. I just can't handle it. I mean, and then I just go back to when we were engaged. Said, Mark, you made it through that. You can make it through anything. You can just, you can just make, and the respect. Like I think a young woman, a young woman understands, the young woman understands that drive in a man. And I think she understands it even more after she gets married. I think after she gets married, holy cow, this is insane. Like, like a young man who's been married a couple years, he said to me, he's like, it's crazy. I'm like, right? He says, I'll work a whole day. I'll work 15 hours. Like, I have no problem working 15 hours. And so he's married. And he said, man, if I can come home and have and I mean, I'm exhausted, physical, mental, emotional. And like, if I can come home and have, a good dinner and then have intimacy, I'm good. Like, I'll like 50, I'll work 15 hours for 15 minutes of enjoyment. It's just like, oh, baby cakes. Like, wow, that's crazy. And so the respect that a woman has for her husband and the adoration and her desire to give herself physically to him is magnified, I think, the rest of his life. The loyalty, the appreciation, the reverence, the respect is just massive. And so when a dad goes ahead and sexually abuses his daughter, it like they talk about in brain science that if you get sexually abused or emotionally abused, and again, we won't go into that. The only way somebody can emotionally abuse you is if they're stronger than you are emotionally. Like that makes sense. So my approach to bullying and emotional abuse is a little bit different than others in that, most people focus on, bullies and tell them not to bully. I have not found that works. Like, just beat the crap out of them. I mean, if somebody's physically abusing you, if like men, like men, they're wired where if they see a woman being physically abused, they will absolutely put their life on the line to stop it. That's that's what they're wired to do. A man is wired to protect his wife and his daughters and other women in his life morally, but especially his wife and daughters and granddaughters. He's wired to do that. So what in the world are people thinking? Like, what in the world is her dad thinking? Like, what in the world? So something happened to him, had to. Like, there had to be something. Was he sexually abused? I don't know. Did he sexually abuse other people? I don't know. I don't know what happened in his childhood, but something, that poor guy. I feel worse for him than I do my wife. I feel worse for my wife's mother. What kind of a woman goes ahead and gets sexually abused, probably raped by her dad, and then she allows her husband to go ahead and sexually abuse her daughter? Like, what in the world? Like, what? Like, I just want to swear. I just want to go, what's like, that just makes no sense. So, there's some type, and it's generational. It goes from one generation to another generation to another generation. And so, um, so how do I have compassion for her mom and dad? Because I have empathy. It's just like I feel bad. And, Christians and pastors use that. Like if you raise your voice, Mark, well, then you haven't forgiven. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's not the case. you know? And so, um, but just because the Bible says be angry and sin not. So what does that mean? So, you know, Dwayne, if you're listening to this, or Rosalie, or any of Rosanna's, siblings, or anybody that knows them, I just feel bad. Dad, I feel bad for you. You are a weak, wussy man. You just, and you know it. That's what, like, it. You can try to lie to yourself. And so I was talking to another gentleman, and he's worked through a lot of abuse, and he was, he's ex-Amish, and so he's in his 80s, and he said that 15 years ago, an Amish girl came to him, and she was, I think, 15, 16, and she said that, she was raped by two Amish boys. So he was careful with that situation, and he brought in a police officer, an English police officer, woman who had experience in that. And so I don't know, we'll probably get into that in one of the podcasts about our experience with police officers and dealing with this. And so it was cool. So he did everything right. Like it was a woman police officer. She had experience. And so she delicately went through this. And there's so much in this. There's so much packed in this that's hard. That's hard. It's just hard. And so the girl was going to go to the police and going to go ahead and report these boys, and these boys were going to be, brought to justice and everything. And she went home to her parents, and she told her parents she was going to do this, and her Amish parents forbid her from doing it.
I thought that's might be what you said.
And I understand. I get it. I do. It's sad. It's absolutely. And this gentleman he said, if I had to do it all over again, Mark, I think I would have reported the parents to the police. 15 years later, he said, I think I would have reported the parents to the police now. And so the sexual stuff, it all is progressional degeneration. It just gets worse. Every generation, it just gets worse. If you don't go ahead and stop it in its tracks, if you don't stop it in its tracks, it's going to go from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. And it spreads throughout the community. I mean, you see it in the Catholic Church. It's it's almost bankrupted them. It's just, and so,
what part of, because the Bible talks about justice and mercy, right? And I'm thinking in that scenario, right? One is sort of justice, the other's mercy, and it's like we understand it because of the mercy piece of this, right? I think I don't really know.
See, this is what's interesting, Norman. What's interesting is what we think is justice may be mercy, and what we think is mercy maybe. I mean, the Bible. See, people. It's just weird. Like pastors, you'd think that they'd dig into this stuff. But the challenge is, going back to that, that guy who is a pastor that I talked about, grew up to be a pastor. Like pastors, they might have worse situations than others. And so the Bible says, what's bound on earth is going to be bound in heaven. What's loosed on earth is going to be loosed in heaven. What in the world does that mean? People don't think about it. Pastors don't. I've never heard a sermon ever once on that. Pastors, they just don't think. They're just not thinking. Why? Because that doesn't sell people being in the pews. It doesn't sell people. If you're a pastor out there, you know this is true. Well, you probably don't. I don't know. If you do, we'll do a podcast together, because every pastor, it's like the religious leaders, like the pastors, like Jesus, when when the men came and they brought a woman who was caught in adultery. How do you catch a woman in adultery and not a man? Like Like that makes no sense. Like how do you do that? Like you can't. Like,
Takes two to tango.
yeah, like and so they bring this woman and Jesus, I think it's from the oldest to the youngest, started writing in the sand, and he just went ahead and wiped them out one right after another, like they just left, like just from the oldest to the youngest. Like that's some crazy cool stuff there. And so the men, it emasculates the men. They lose confidence, and so they're shamed. There's something inside of them that get eaten away. And Rosanna's mom, like, how does she do that? They rationalize it, though. I understand, because the same friend, this guy had abused multiple of his daughters, and he sat across the table and he's talking to the guy and confronting the guy and doing whatever. And the guy goes and says, well, yeah, but I mean, they're my girls. They're, at least it's not somebody else's girl. And he just he said, I just felt like leaping over the table and just wrangling the guy. But that's what it is. It's possessional. And so it's twisted. It's like, and I think that there's some type of conquest, like, there's men want to conquer, and they feel like they're addicted. Like, I don't think her dad wanted to do it, but he was addicted to it. I think the mom, she was emasculated. She couldn't stop it. And Rosanna, she couldn't stop it either. She thought she could each time it happened. She's like, I can stop this. This will stop. And it's like, that's delusional. It's just delusional. So what does she do? She brings in her fiance. Her fiance, I visualize this as a rhino running at you. I just drop him, shoot him in the head, boom, drop him like you know what? And so this is where girls, they have this, if they've been sexually abused, they have this power over men that's insane. See, the girl at some point understands, I have control over my dad. Like, if I tell somebody, he's going down. Now, it's complicated because nobody's going to believe her. So it's not like, but it does all kinds of wonky, wacky stuff to a girl's head. And so when they're young, like, little girls like to go ahead and have attention. They love to be touched, and they love to be held, and they love to be tickled, and they love to giggle. Little girls love this kind of stuff. And so when it starts out so young, it's like they don't even know, like they can't even process it. And so it's happening until it stops. And I think this is, like those two boys, not bringing them to justice, not calling them out on it. I think that mercy would have been the thing to call them out. Like calling out my father-in-law. Like, I made a decision. I'm not going to go public with this until after he and Rosanna's mom and dad died. I'm like, because, I don't desire to hurt them. I do desire to prevent it from happening in the future. But then after 35 years of marriage, and we find out that it didn't start when she was 17 or 18. It started when she was 12. To me, it changed all the rules. Like, all the rules are changed. Like, now, and then, even then, like, people, it's just hilarious to see Christians judge and say, Mark, you're angry. Well, maybe, yeah. I'm angry because it didn't have to happen. I'm angry because it could have been stopped. I'm angry because, yeah, I'm angry. But it says be angry and sin not. So, am I sinning, calling people? Like, and people can, right now at 61, it's almost like I'll consider everything anybody says, but I don't care. Like, it just, and so even after 35 years, and we find out that through counseling and a bunch of stuff, that, yeah, it didn't start at 17 or 18. And that's the thing I struggle with for 35 years. Like, how can you be 18, 19 years old? I can see it happening once, one time, and then you slug the guy. You tell me, like, and I couldn't understand. For 35 years, I went through hell wondering, why didn't she fight? It doesn't make sense. And I asked her, why didn't you? Why? Like, and she didn't, I don't know. I don't know. Like it just made there's no, but now when it goes to 12 or younger, it's like, oh, I get it. That's just conditioning. You just block out on it. So here's some additional, here's some additional resources. Like, here's some additional resources. And so, here's some right here. Click there. And if you're a pastor or leader, click there. And if you're a leader of an organization, click here. See the thing is, what like like these men that do this, their greatest fear is being exposed. They would rather go to prison than being exposed. But if you go to prison, you're going to be exposed. So they don't fear prison as nearly as much as being exposed. And so in Morris, Illinois, like that whole place is just messed up. Like, holy cow. Like it's like police and the press. I mean, so after we found out and we waited a year or two afterwards, and I'm like, listen, don't do anything when you're, you want to make sure you're solid when you're going. So after we found out, and we wanted him to come into counseling, and then we wanted her mom. So, hey, so these are three things. Like, I want to know, we need to know to have healing because she can't remember it. I mean, and so it's like her brain is damaged. Like, it's like she remembers stuff, but she doesn't remember stuff. Like it's on and off. And then you blame the girl because you have no empathy. You have no empathy for a 12-year-old girl or younger. You don't understand how their brain's developing. And so it's like, and so we wanted to get counseling. So I said, here's the rules of how this is going to work. I want to know when it started because we knew at 12, very specific memories after 35 years of marriage came out at 12. I'll never forget it. It was like everything is slow motion and her emotions and her tears and her everything. It's just like she's shaking when she shares it after 35 years of marriage. So she had repressed it for those 35 years. So her grandma had arthritis. I think it's because, of sexual abuse. Her mom had arthritis and she has arthritis. And I think it's in large part because of sexual abuse. Because I think when you hold things in, it does something genetically to you. Like your body can't heal from normal stuff that the body goes through. So we're going to go into the next one here. Man, there's a lot. Anyways, so hopefully this is helpful. We'll go into part 4 here.